Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Eric Cuffran. Today I'm going to be giving you a tour of my van. I'm actually out here in Seward, Alaska. It's an incredible day out here, and I'm actually in the midst of a 8,000 mile, 2-month-long road trip up here to Alaska to visit all 8 national parks. I am obsessed with national parks. I've actually been to all of the lower 48 and some of the parks that are outside of the lower 48, and after this trip I'll have been to 62 of 63. So this is a serious epic adventure for me, going back to back on all these national parks. In order to make that all possible, I'm basically living out of my van, sleeping in the van all along the way, here and there through Canada and all that. So you're going to see exactly how the van looks on the inside, how it is when I'm living in it, not just when it's parked in the driveway and all the stuff is in my house or whatever. So feel free to ask me any questions about the van down in the comments, or anything that you're curious about my trip. I would be happy to answer those questions. All right, so let's get into it. We'll talk about the outside, cover any of the upgrades or things I've done on the outside, and then we'll get into the inside and hopefully cover it all. So the van itself, it's a 2019 Ram ProMaster, 136-inch wheelbase. I bought it as a windowless cargo van in Wisconsin in October of 2019. I actually did most of the work myself in terms of converting it and upgrading it to be livable. I did actually have some help from professionals for certain things that I just did not feel comfortable doing, like drilling into the gas tank for the heater, installing things like these windows, and cutting holes in the exterior of the van, and then the roof vent. Other than that, really most of everything else I've done on my own. It's not necessarily the prettiest van, but it works for me. I come from a background of basically camping and backpacking, and so this is a serious upgrade from sleeping on the ground. All right, let's talk about some of the upgrades I've done here on the outside. As you can see, I've got windows. The windows actually go all the way around. There are 4 sliders, and those are really nice for allowing wind to come through. And then I've got 2 awnings. Those are good for when it's raining and stuff like that, that you can have them open when it's raining. I've got some all-terrain tires. These are, I think, an essential thing that you would want to have if you ever want to go off-road. I don't really go necessarily on 4x4 roads, but I'm camped over here in Kenai Fjords, just outside the park on a riverbed, and it's all river stone and stuff like that. So these all-terrain tires definitely make that a little bit more comfortable, not necessarily easier, but I don't necessarily have to worry about tire spinning or having them get popped. They're a little bit more thick. They're like a 10-ply tire as opposed to your traditional whatever tire. I'm not a tire guy, but all-terrain tires. The roof rack, it is a ladder rack, and then on top of that I actually built my own roof deck up there using PVC boards, and those are really nice because I didn't have to paint them. They're white colored, and so they make, you know, they blend in with the rest of the van, but they last forever. So and they're also super durable. Other things up on the top there, I've got 3 solar panels, so 300 watts. Definitely wish I had more, but it's great for here where it's sunny right now and where there's 24 hours of sunlight here in the summer. I'm just, doing really well on power consumption. A few other things I've got up there is some cellular antennas. I've got dual 5G 4x4 MIMO antennas for all you techie nerds out there. Basically, that's going to give you stronger signal, more bandwidth, greater sensitivity for those signals. And then I've also got 2 flat-mounted Starlink up there. One's the Gen 2, and then one's the Gen 3, which is the latest. And I'm actually able to, of course, since they're flat-mounted, run them all the time, even when I'm driving down the road, which is excellent for situations like when you're way the heck out here in the middle of nowhere in Alaska or Canada and there's no cellular service. So that is, let's see here, that's the outside. Let's go and check out the inside. Okay, so this is the main living area inside the van. When I built out the inside of the van, I first started with this bed. It's basically just some plywood with some Scorva IKEA rack things underneath there that are attached to the side. Plus I added some additional 1x1s to give it a little bit more stiffness. It's got a full-size bed, certainly very comfortable for one person. Also, it's okay for two people, even with a dog up there. I have got a lot of pillows to make it kind of cozy up here. It's definitely nice to sit and watch the TV. Got one of these big pillows like this so I can sit and watch TV. And I've upgraded last June, to a 32-inch TV. And this Vizio Smart TV here actually is able to swing out, and you can then sit over in the front, swivel seats over there and watch TV with two people or whatever. And theoretically, you could also swing it and then sit out and watch TV inside the van. I've never done that. It's just kind of neat to say you could do that, but I definitely don't do that. I'm not tailgating or whatever in this van. Roof vent up here, critical element. This is huge for sucking out air and blowing air in. When I'm cooking in here, I turn this on, and when I just want to ventilate, of course, run the fan. I also have these other fans that is helpful. Before I actually had these windows installed, kind of this fan here and these fans was all I had, and so started with those and just basically kept them in here. These are really handy for situations where, like when I'm take a shower or whatever and I'm hanging my towel, I'll have this turned on and then it's just blowing on my towel. Or if I go on a long hike and I come back into the van, just turn it on, turn these fans on, and it just helps with that circulation. Sometimes maybe it's really cold outside or whatever and you don't want to actually open up the windows. There's also times, quite honestly, where I've been in places and it's just really smoky. And so I actually have this air purifier, which it's like a home air purifier that you would see in a house, and it blows, really strong, sucks in a lot of air, blows it all around. So these fans running, if you were in a place where it was smoky, can help to still keep the air moving inside the van so it doesn't feel super stuffy. Got some lighting here. I have basically another cool thing about this van is it's not the most fancy in here, but the internet setup and the technology, I kind of wanted to go a little bit over the top with that. So I actually have Alexa enabled the interior van, and so certain things, not everything can be turned on and off with the lights or with the Echo lights off. So I can turn those things on and off. Echo, lights on. You can also change the color of the lights, turn up the intensity, the things like that. Echo, basement on. So there's lights underneath here, strip lights that, of course, makes it easier to see all the stuff that I have underneath there. All of the other outlets, like the purifier, can be turned on and off. I actually have enabled Alexa for the second Starlink that I have on the roof, so I could actually turn that on and off. The shore power on the outside, the outlet that I can use to power things outside, TV. Basically, I have Alexa enabled power strips that feed off of my power station back there so that I can turn anything on and off that is plugged into those AC outlets. There's also some power controls, Wi-Fi enabled as part of the power station, so I can actually turn all of the ports off, turn all of the power to the power station on and off. And the other cool thing is, of course, because Alexa and these things work wherever, I can actually be in my house or on my phone and turn all of those things that I just described on and off from anywhere. So that's kind of neat. Some of the other things that I've got kind of over here in this section, as you can see here, I've got basically this Home Depot wire racking, and I had some leftover of these pieces of PVC from the roof that I used to essentially build, I don't know what you would call this, but it keeps stuff from sliding off. I also installed some of this little stuff you would put in a cabinet. And so it also has like a rubber grippiness to it. So all this stuff when I drive around doesn't slide on and off of here. But still, there's times where when you're driving, stuff can move. And so that keeps the stuff from sliding off of here. This also is how I climb up onto the roof. I basically will step up onto there and then climb up and down using that as a step. And I bolted this on here, so it's super strong. I weigh about 175 pounds and it can support my weight on that PVC stuff there. But basically this is where I do all of my food prep and things like that. I've got my electric kettle. This one got recently, got the gooseneck, so I can do my pour over while I'm out here and have a great cup of coffee and not be drinking instant coffee. So I make pour overs with that. I can boil water and do anything that requires hot water, like ramen or noodles or mashed potatoes or whatever it is, right? These different things that use hot water. And then down in here, I've got my induction cooktop. And basically it's just a simple process of getting that thing out and putting it on there. Inside here I've got a large pot, basically my universal cooking pot that I can cook a steak in, I can boil noodles or whatever, I can make really anything, heat up frozen meals and different things like that, and all my other utensils and whatnot for cooking, flipping spatulas, whatever is all in there. But this induction cooktop is really nice because I don't have fumes happening inside the van here. Like if it was a propane, you would have fumes, and don't have fumes. So here I've actually wired in an outlet into the back so I can turn on the cooking outlet. And basically that's the outlet. Echo, cooking outlet on. So I can turn that on using that command. And then I also have another power station. Basically, when I built the van the first year, right away I needed power in here to power my stuff, and so I have a Yeti 3000. Soon after that, within about a year and a half, the Yeti 6000 came out, and I got that, and so that's what's powering the van at this time. And so instead of just discarding this old power station, I use it over here as an auxiliary power station. So in the event that I'm concerned about drawing down too much power on my main power station, I can plug anything over here into that or connect it into the back. So I basically have 900 amp hours of power, 300 here, 600 back there. And then I also use this to charge all my electronics, laptops, things like that. It's got USB-C ports. And then I even have auxiliary lighting. There's situations where I'm in different places and I want to have more light or different light, and these are running off of this thing as opposed to all the other lights that run off of the main power station, so I can turn that on and off. And then in the event that something ever happened or whatever, the main power station could just stop working, knock on wood, I don't want that to happen, but I could actually swap that back into that spot and then continue on whatever I'm doing. So it's kind of a redundancy as well. So this is where I do all of my cooking. It's also just a place for organizing whatever if I'm doing stuff, right? Have different things over here like my hand sanitizer, wet wipes, and things like that. Over in this area, I've got more shelving, basically all my toiletries and different things like that here in this hard side container. You might be wondering, well, why hard side containers? Well, I could tell you fun stories about mice and mice getting into the van. I've only had 2 mice ever get into the van. One of them I unfortunately had to dispatch. The other one I was able to get out of the van. And that was before I got smart and previously had different racking over here and basically would just put food bags over here. And that if mice are finding food inside of wherever they're looking for food, they'll stay there. Well, so now I have everything, including my toiletries, all of my food inside these hard side containers. So they're also the kind that lock. So they're basically ideally not perfectly smell proof, but partially. And so that's where I basically store more things. I have like kind of a junk drawer. Over in this section here is my Webasto heater. So I've got a heater that taps into the fuel tank and that can heat the van in the winter time or whatever. And I use that to control it. Unfortunately, that doesn't control with the Alexa, but can't have it all, right? Some of the other things that I've done in here or am using, so you can see how I'm actually using the van when I'm using it, is I've got these magnetized little hooks, and essentially because the van has these ribs all over the place, I use these hooks in different spots. So I've got hangers here, I've got my sleep mask, which is all important up here in Alaska with the 24 hours of sunlight. And basically, like different times I'll come back in here, and what I'll do is I'll have wet clothes from a hike, or maybe I did laundry, and I'll use these to basically hang off of here. And I got a whole bunch of these in a bag right there, so I can basically have these hanging metal hooks with different things in any spot where I want to attach that to do something with. So basically I have, like, you know, this shirt that I'm wearing at times because it's windy, different hats. You might be wondering, well, what is this black stuff? This is insulation, so it's Thinsulate. I am not a carpenter by trade. I'm a technology geek, and this is kind of the last frontier of things that I've not been able to take the time to do. So eventually I'd like to get some plank, plank boards, and have proper looking interior roof, but it really doesn't affect the function of the van. The insulation, that is something that affects the function of the van, keeps it cooler inside, helps to maintain the heat in the winter time. I can be in here now in the winter time with this insulation, be wearing short sleeve shirt and running my heater. I can get it up to in the 60s, and it's super comfortable. Okay, some of the other things that I have or do is in this back area here, I have just as a temporary stow spot right now, I have my little work surface, my table here, and I use this to do work, and I can move it back and forth so I can sit back here and be comfortable and sit out with my legs. I also can do kind of a standing desk here. I have my speakerphone, or not my speakerphone, but one of those desk style USB microphones that plugs into my laptop. And then here I actually keep my my webcam on one of these articulating mounts. And so this webcam here, it's the Insta360 PTZ, and basically it has a facial tracking function. I can also move it up and down and around. And so it's really handy for out here or in the van where I can be sitting and not have to necessarily worry about the thing being at the wrong angle, which is, I think, kind of weird if you're on a Zoom call or something like that and you're looking down or looking away because, I don't know, whatever. So I'm on a lot of Zoom calls, so I kind of have this extravagant work setup here that this basically I just stow back here when it's not in use. So that is my office, my mobile office. Certainly I could set up like a table outside or work outside the van, but a lot of places it's like windy, cold, people around, there's noise or whatever, or there's bugs. So I generally speaking always am working inside the van. Real quickly, I'll just talk about the underneath here. Basically, I use all of this area as storage. I have on this side a shelf, and then over here just more area for stowing things. So I keep all my clothes over here, and then I keep things that I need readily right there. And I use bungee cords to keep this stuff from sliding forward. And as part of this trip, as you can see, I have a 2-month trip where I'm able to fit everything that I need inside this van. And how I'm doing that is I actually, on the back, I had boxes installed. So that's another thing that I had a professional help me with, was getting these boxes installed onto the back of the van. And that enabled me to move some of the stuff that normally I would have had to keep underneath here in those boxes. So I'll show you that in just a second. Over here, what you could see me sitting on is actually my refrigerator. It's a Dometic, and it's the double-sided version, and that's pretty handy for any situation where you want to actually keep stuff frozen on one side and then keep refrigerated things on the other. This side is actually bigger on the right. This one is a little bit smaller for some reason. I think the compressor and whatnot is on this side. And typically when I go on shorter, maybe a couple days, three, 4 days trips, I'll only turn on the one side. And then that's real easy to do with this setting panel over here. You can turn on and off either side. If I wanted that side to be freezer and this side to be refrigerator, you can totally do that. You can dial up and down the temps and it goes down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And it also doubles as just a spot to sit. And I keep some of these old Z seats that I have laying around on here, just so that you're not sitting on the plastic. And then another little thing here is I've got this, basically a step stool, which makes it a little bit easier to climb on and off the bed. All right, so front of the van here, starting up here in this area, I basically keep things like my window covers. I've got these reflective insulated versions that stick on to the window. These work very well for hot, sunny days, keeping the van cooler inside. Also keeping people from, of course, being able to see in. But when I'm just in different places, what I'll do, instead of putting those on all the time, is I'll just hang a sheet across the front here. And again, I use these little metal hooks, magnetized dealies that the fact that it has this little hook thing on here is what makes it easy to get these on and off. So I just put that right there. And of course, did it too short there, but basically can cover up the front there. And that just, if somebody was driving down a road and I was sleeping in here, the reflective things is definitely not stealth. And so by not installing those and just having this black sheet, I can be in here watching TV, having the lights on, and nothing really gets through there. So it doesn't draw as much attention, and it's a lot quicker to just put this on and off. The windows are actually tinted, and so you have to basically put your face right up against the glass to even be able to see it. And so if people are walking around the van, right wherever I'm at, if I want privacy, I already have it, except for the front windows, which are not tinted. So this is also my privacy sheet in different places where I want that. And then also sometimes when I'm doing my standing working desk, if it's really sunny here, that can really create a lot of noise or white color behind me. So I'll sometimes put that up when I'm on Zoom calls or whatever as well. And then other things that I keep up here is like garbage bags, paper towels, flat things that are not easily stowable underneath there, like my day pack that I use for backpack on a short day trip. I also have my Echo. My Echo is right here, and that makes it good for situations where I'm driving and I want to say, Echo, lights off, or whatever, and it can hear me from right there. And another thing I have is right over here, hard to see, but basically this is a Wi-Fi enabled thermostat with also a humidity sensor that goes into an app, and then using my phone, I can see what the temperature is inside the van. Is there any real practical use for that functionality? Yeah, it's more of a data nerd, and just like to know, like, oh yeah, the van last night at this spot or that spot, it was 30 degrees in the middle of the night. It's kind of fun to know that. So there's this log in the app, and there's these little squiggly lines and charts that it makes. But of course, also I can just walk over here and visually look at it. Right now it's 67 in here, so quite comfortable. Some of the other things that I've got, just hanging off the back here is just like camera bags, and that makes it easy to get at cameras instead of having them all in bins or wherever in the back. Another thing right over here, emergency bathroom. I have actually only used this one time on this trip. Happened to be yesterday when I was out there on the riverbed and did not want to drive back into town. I don't necessarily want to be using a bucket to go to the bathroom, but I'm not shy about using it when I need to. I'm a backpacker, so even if, let's say I'm out in the forest road, some places I have a shovel in the back, I'll dig a hole and go to the bathroom right there. Have a big kitchen-sized garbage thing here instead of one of those little small ones like I used to have. I've upgraded to a full-size garbage bag bin, so I don't have to empty it every single day or more than once per day like I was doing before. I've got also swivel seats, so let's see here. Swivel this guy around, and of course it takes a little bit of effort to do that, but swivel seats. Do I swivel the seats around every time I stop, everywhere I'm going? Nah, I just sit over there, I sit on the bed. But having the swivel seat when I'm traveling with my wife or in very specific situations where I really want to sit here and work from right here and be looking out that way or whatever, yeah, I swivel it around. It's pretty easy to do. I also have the swivel seat on the driver's side as well, which then makes it a little bit easier to see over to the TV. The only bummer about that side is that it raises up the seat by, I think, 2 inches. And so when you're sitting here, I'm not a tall guy, but it definitely at certain situations makes you have to kind of get your head down to be able to see differently out of the front, which, you know, is kind of a bummer. The other thing that is also a bummer is that the 2019 and before, I think, or maybe 2021 and before, on the left-hand side here, they've switched to an electronic parking brake. And in my van, there's a handle there. And in order to swivel the seat, that handle has to be down. And just by habit, I always put on the parking brake everywhere I stop because I don't want there to be added pressure and forces on the parking pin and being in park. So every time I stop the van, before I put it in park, I actually pull the parking brake. And so in order to swivel it around, I have to undo that, which, you know, it's kind of a bummer. I wish that was different about this van. Some of the other things that I've got up here is, and I just got this. This is something that makes the front cup holder actually useful. Basically, this is a phone mount thing that fits in this stupid cup holder that I wouldn't even put anything in because it's not deep enough to actually keep stuff from falling out of. So now I have some purpose for that. So I keep my primary phone in that phone mount. And then I also installed this little just camera mount thing. And so for this trip, I can put my 360 camera on there and then get, you know, these majestic mountains or views or driving past water and stuff. I turn on my 360 cam and capture some what is essentially like dash cam footage. And then over here on this side, you may not be able to see it. So just real quickly move this around here. On this side, I've actually got another phone mount, and this is an old iPhone 7S, and yeah, it still works. I think eventually they're gonna stop updating the apps. I use Waze on this, and then on my main phone, my own, my regular phone, my day-to-day phone, I use Google Maps. And you might be wondering, well, why would you use 2 phones? Well, sometimes they disagree with each other. For whatever reason, Waze thinks the fastest route is this way, and Google thinks the fastest route is this way. So I'm basically looking at both all the time. And it's also handy for having additional audio prompts. When I'm coming up to a turn, I hear Waze tell me, hey, turn, right? And I might be having my phone my regular phone over here with Google Maps playing music through the car stereo, and I turn off the music, the prompts, or for whatever reason, maybe I'm listening to the radio and the Bluetooth is paired and blah, blah, blah. You don't hear it. And so having basically 2 phones saying, hey, dummy, there's a turn come up, just helps with that. So I have a charging cable for that secondary phone. And then I also just got this recently too. This is kind of neat. It's actually, it's not your typical charger. For one, it's got the USB-C port that does USB-C PD power delivery 3.0, charges as fast as possible, and I have the proper cable for that. Not all cables are created equal. This one actually can recharge my phone from 1% to 25% in roughly 15 minutes. So when you're driving in certain situations, you want it to charge fast. If you were plugging it into the port that's here built into the van, that's like a 2 point whatever amps. It's not going to charge very fast. So fast charger, but also it gives me a voltage readout for my the van power. So 12 volt power. What's the voltage at? It's, again, kind of a nerdy thing, but it's kind of neat to know that it's charging at 14 some volts, and that's helpful to know for my my power station back there, because when I'm driving, it's charging the power station, and so just knowing that I'm getting 14 some odd watts is also helpful. Some of the other things down here, you definitely need to have the proper size of water and coffee mugs, because the stupid cup holder does not fit anything bigger than something small or whatever. And then lastly, that fan, the roof fan that I told you about back there, it actually came with this remote. And you might be wondering, well, can't you just walk back there? Yeah, but I could also sit and I could be driving and I can open and close it, which is handy because sometimes I might be actually parked and I know, or whatever, I could come out to the van after getting groceries or something and the van's hot. So I'll turn on the fan and then I'll open the front windows here and then I'll start driving down the road, and then this thing will be on 100% suction out. So it's pulling all the hot air out of the van. And then, a couple miles down the road, I'll point this back that way. There it goes. And I can open and close it from up here. You can also turn it up and down. You can change the direction. And so it's kind of handy. Okay, so like I was saying before, I got these boxes to keep stuff that typically or previously I had to store inside the van. That is stuff that you would store outside here. Not my clothes, not my toiletries, stuff that you would keep outside the van and not have to worry about it banging around in there or whatever. I actually had these installed by a professional. They're Aluminous boxes. Most of the cost to get these boxes was not in the installation, it was in the boxes themselves. Crazy expensive for what's essentially a metal cabinet with a door on it and lock. But super solid, don't have to worry about it, can put a ton of stuff inside them. Here in this side, I've got things such as my power cables for places where I want to be on shore power. And I've actually got two different lengths. I've got a short 25 footer and then I've got a 100 footer just in case I need it. I've also got different things here, like if, for instance, and this is rare that I go to a campground, but if I did need to go to a campground, sometimes they have different types of power outlets. So I can convert this from that, and I've got another one of these guys. Basically, I'm unprepared, right? When you're out in the middle of nowhere, they're not going to necessarily have this available for you at certain spots. I've also got things in here like my air pump, so can pump up the tires. I've also got a what do you call it, a little vacuum, so I can vacuum up small amounts of dirt. Keep antifreeze in here, different cleaning products. I've got chains, keep the chains in here all the time. Oh, and then there's also this this thing that I can also install onto the outside of there, and then you can attach stuff to that. I just got these boxes right before this trip, so I haven't had the time to necessarily think about what I might need and what I would want to attach to those things, but maybe eventually I'll do that. There's a key, of course, and then also you can install a padlock or whatever on there for added protection. And then on this side, more stuff. I've got, these are recovery boards. They're not boards per se, but they're folding. I actually have recovery boards and they don't work that well. When I was at Lake Mead in 2021, I actually got stuck in some knee-deep powdery sand out there, and I got my recovery boards out and they did not work. And so fortunately somebody came by who had a rope and they pulled me out of there. And the very next thing that I did after that was I went to a Harbor Freight and I bought this thing here called a recovery strap. As you can see, it's still in the package. Thank goodness I have not needed it again, or haven't needed it at all since I got it. But it's, again, one of those things, like if happen to be out in the middle of nowhere and someone else is driving by, they might not have this, or they might not have a rope. And so I have it, so I could ask them, hey buddy, pull me out. And the other things I've got are like the different shackles that you might need in order to attach to different vehicles in different spots. I've got like a metal one, and then I've got like a super thick rope one. Here I've got charcoal, a butane stove. So certain situation, maybe I want to cook outside, I can do that here. I've got a gas charcoal grill for grilling outside, things like gloves, whatnot. I've got keeping my bear can in there that I'm going to need on this trip, and I'm going on all sorts of backpacking adventures. I've also got here a carbon steel pan in case I want to like cook out on an open flame. I can do that. Also have a this basically a wash basin that accordions open. You can see partially open, but basically to do dishes outside. And then in here I've got a shower. So basically a powered shower, battery powered shower, with then a soft-sided bucket that I could use to scoop up water, or from a spigot I could fill up and take a shower. Again, I come from backpacking before being a van person, and so I go days without showering. I think the last time I showered, I was in, let's see, where was that? Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory, and that was, I think, 4 days ago. So I use baby wipes. Of course, I clean all my different areas and keep myself clean, but actual shower, not as necessary. Water carrying, butane, different things. Fire starters if I want to make a bonfire. Got this butane torch, which is handy for situations like out here where it's really windy and you can just get that thing going, lit, whatever. So that is my boxes. Up here I also have, just to quickly point it out, you can see, hopefully I think you can see, that's where all my cables come in and off the roof. So all of my Starlinks and my LTE router antennas all come in through that entry point, which is the rear view backup camera. Essentially, I drilled holes into that and then used marine grade seals to seal up those holes so that no water gets in. I actually had to run 4 additional cables. So I've got 4 cables coming in from the side, and then 10 cables coming in from the top, for a total of 14 cables coming off the roof. So yeah, there's a lot of wiring going in and out of this van. So let's see what the back looks like here. Nice thing about these, when they installed these boxes, there's straps here, so they won't open up more than that, so there's no risk of them swinging open and hitting the van. I use these Husky bins. They are airtight, I guess. So in this one I have things like little wrenches and various parts, the spare tire kit and tools, zip ties, mouse traps, you name it, right? There's situations where you're gonna need that. And fortunately, when I had to dispatch a mouse, I actually had the mouse traps with me at that time, which if you don't got stuff at certain places out in the middle of nowhere, you're out of luck. So I carry a lot of things with me that I hope I never need, but I have them in case I do need them. Got my hamper here, different storage, things like my shovel here for situation where maybe you gotta go to the bathroom, you need to dig a hole, you can do that. I also, you might see this right here, this is a damp rid. It's basically like those moisture absorbers that you sometimes see in food or inside clothing that absorbs moisture. And that's just handy for times like this when I'm traveling and there's a lot of humidity in certain spots. Maybe the air isn't moving around as much back there, and so I definitely don't want to have mold or mildew or things like that. So I have one there, got one in the middle, and then I've got one under the driver's seat, because where you're coming in and out and you're tracking water in, so it absorbs that. And then I change those roughly every 2 months. Of course, you can see on there when it needs to be changed. I got different things here, like a folding table. I got another little table. I got chairs. I got this click chair and backpacking things, tents, stuff that I'm going to need on this trip. It all fits in there. Hamper, different things here like Ziplocs, or my wet ones or whatever. All my backpacking food. I'm kind of a picky eater and like to eat specific kinds of food. Can't find all that stuff out here in the middle of Alaska, so I brought a bunch of backpacking food from home. And then here, let's get to a better view of this. So cleared out some things just to get a little bit better view. Actually had a wooden box, insulated box that I built while I was living in Wisconsin and having to deal with sub-zero temperatures all the time, and had a lid and everything and vents so you could use it all the time and not have to worry about it overheating. But it basically allowed that to work and charge when it would be otherwise too cold to charge. So I haven't needed really that, because I'm now living in California and the van is insulated and blah, blah, blah. I don't need it anymore. So I got rid of that, and basically that freed up some space back here. So more Home Depot shelving. This is the top of the line van right here. But it works, and I've got it strapped down. I also have the power station strapped down with ratcheting straps, so it's all secure. But basically I've got my charging set up here for shore power, and basically I can attach those cables, the power cables that I pointed at before, into that, and then that feeds into here, and then I've got 3 outlets that I can charge. And of course that's Alexa enabled too, so I can turn on and off those charging ports from anywhere. And then on the other side here, basically there's another one of those that I can output. So if I wanted to outside the van, I've done things like use an electric razor to cut my hair or whatever. I can do that outside the van and not get a mess all over. Another little thing that I've got right here is actually the power switch for my Starlink 1, the Gen 2 Starlink, and it's DC powered. So I converted the Starlink from being whatever the hell, the AC power that comes with the Starlink and their whole kit for the Gen 2, to be able to power that over Ethernet in using a power injector. And the nice thing is I can reach that from on the bed, so I can get back here and turn that on and off. And that's really handy because I don't want that to be running all the time. I want to be able to save power, and so I turn it off. Like if I go to bed and I'm sleeping, I turn it off, and then when I wake up, I can roll over and turn it on. And then the other Starlink, the one that I just got and installed, I attempted to perform the same type of conversion to that using similar parts, but I just had some technical issue that I couldn't overcome and didn't want to mess with it anymore. So for that, I'm actually using the AC power brick. And then here I have the Starlink router. And these are just using VHB tape. They're secured to here, and you can see it didn't move around after the crazy amount of potholes I drove over. Everything is still fine. And that has Ethernet port on it. So unlike the prior generation where the Ethernet was like an add-on thing, that's all integrated. And when I ran the cable in from the roof into here, I had to cut the cable and install my own connector on there. And I went through several different types of connectors, and the one that I'm using now has a real strong hold in there, so it's not coming out, and that has held as well. Other things that I keep here, I've basically got some additional cables, charging USB cables. I actually have a spare 4G router, and again, it's just like backup. I'm a belt and suspenders kind of guy, I guess you could say, but if for some reason something happened with the main router, I could take my SIM cards out, put them into that one, and be able to connect to the internet. Also, that one actually is powerable by a USB battery bank, and so when I go to Glacier Bay as part of this trip, I'm not going to be with the van, and over there I'm going to bring my SIM cards with me, and there's AT&T service over there. So I'll have a little, inside my tent, I'll have my 4G router powered by this USB battery bank and be able to watch cat videos on YouTube or whatever. Behind here I've got DC power, and then my power strips, and then kind of in that back area there, which I can't show you very easily, is my Peplink BR2 Pro. It's a dual 5G router, so it's got 2 modems all built in, and then there are also 2 Ethernet WAN ports that enable me to connect Ethernet connections into the Starlink, so I don't have all this janky like Wi-Fi connectivity or whatever going from those things. And then also my my power over Ethernet injectors are back in there. And also another thing that I've got is there's also a power injector for a wireless access point. The router has a wireless access point built in, but in case I want to, I can actually use the wireless router function, access point function in the router to connect to like a free wireless. If you were at a national park, sometimes there's free Wi-Fi there. That quite honestly hasn't been as important or useful to me now that I have Starlink. Pretty much anywhere I would go, if I had a situation where there was no cellular, I wouldn't drive to some free Wi-Fi. I would just go find clear sky and be on the Starlink. So I actually didn't remove that power injector and the wire to be able to put the access point, which is in this bin here. I just kept that in place in the event, unlikely that I want to. I can take that access point out of there, plug it in, plug in the DC into that injector, and then not need to worry about the access point that's on the roof antennas interfering with the function of connecting to an upstream Wi-Fi source. So I know that was a crap ton of technical jargon and all of that. I've actually got a video on my YouTube channel from about 1.5 years ago that is very similar, and it describes all of this and has some better photos and pictures. So take a look at that, and if you're really interested, leave me a comment down below and I'll do an updated one where I move some of this stuff out of the way and get better video of that and explain it maybe better. So that's the area back here. Okay, that's it. I think I covered everything. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. If you saw something that you're curious about or you think I missed, feel free to hit me up in the comment section. I'd be more than happy to answer any and all questions. And if you made it this far, hit that like and subscribe button. It definitely helps me out. I make videos about van life, national parks, backpacking, techie stuff related to those sorts of stuff, and stick around. You won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.